New South Wales is home to some of Australia's most iconic landmarks. Sydney's famous Harbour Bridge frames the majestic sails of the city's opera house. This is the state where passion drove early settlers over the Blue Mountains in search of gold more than a century ago. But for the last 7 decades, that search for gold has revolved around just one mountain. Bathurst is home to the country's most important motor racing real estate. Just over 6 kilometres of public road that draws fans and racers from all over the world. Fast corners, long straights, big drops. It's Australia's answer to Le Mans. This year, the acknowledged champions of that internationally revered racetrack have come to tame our mountain, Mount Panorama. It's an endurance race that will test the mettle of man and machine. For this is the 2011 Armour All Bathurst 12 Hour.
1 minute to the opening of pit exit, 1 minute.
Pump on in 30 seconds.
Contender crunch.
As the red goes out, that will be going.
3, 2, 1, go.
Roger, off now.
After a week-long heat wave across the state of New South Wales, an overnight shower has cooled conditions just nicely for the start of the Armour All Bathurst 12 Hour. Hi everybody, I'm Greg Rust. Welcome to our coverage. We're at Mount Panorama Bathurst, not too long now before the start of this gruelling endurance race, which is fast approaching its 10th anniversary. But for 2011, the event takes on a different look and feel, with organisers allowing some stunning new cars to compete. And that's generated interest among European manufacturers and lured some international drivers back to the mountain. To set the scene, we go to the first of our reporters. Here's Chad Nailon.
The big change to the Armour All 12 Hour this year is the addition of the stylish yet speedy GT production cars. Now, the change of the rules to allow these FIA spec races has seen a return to the mountain from such big names as Ferrari, Mosler and Audi. Now, they'll be sharing the 6.2 kilometre circuit with the showroom warriors we're used to seeing at this event, which means, Brian Ingerson, that those closing speeds on slower cars will be something that these amazing machines will have to watch out for.
The event again features a star-studded lineup of drivers from both here and overseas. But in Australia, well, they don't come much bigger than this guy, the modern-day king of the mountain, Craig Lowndes. The field also features V8 supercar drivers, rally aces and production car champions.
As always, there'll be plenty of pit stops across the course of 12 hours. We'll have all of that action covered for you with Grant Boyden, who's got some interesting new angles this year.
We certainly do. Now, you might think it's just a little bit early for me to be wearing sunglasses, but I'm doing so for a very good reason. Not only will we have our cameras out on the circuit, our cameras in pit lane and our onboards, but these glasses are actually a camera as well. During the race, we'll bring you all of the action from pit crew members as they change tyres, refuelers, team managers, even myself. And it's all designed to give you the best seat in the house.
Thanks, Grant. We welcome Garth Tander to the commentary box as we take a closer look at this amazing piece of racing real estate.
Mount Panorama, we all know it and we all love it, and there's a few new guys here that are going to learn it over the course of the next 12 hours. A few key areas to keep an eye out: Reed Park and McPhillamy Park across the top of the mountain. Lots of speed across there in these GT3 cars, plenty of things to keep an eye on.
At its highest point, it's 862 metres above sea level, quite a significant amount of elevation change at Mount Panorama. This is what it's like at speed with Craig Lowndes.
Thanks, Rusty. Here comes a lap of Bathurst in an Audi. Quite nice, vastly different to what I'm used to. It's got ABS, stability control, which I need a lot of that at the moment, but the car is quite nice. It's got good sense of gravity, a lot of downforce, doesn't quite have the horsepower. So as you come up down Mountain Straight, going into turn 2, back down the gears. Well, and I've got to tell you, it's got some great things called paddle shift. So it's quite nice. Just got to stay away from the curbs, coming up into the cutting, catching up on the back of a all-wheel drive Mitsubishi. The one thing that I've just got to keep my head around is is the, as I go past now, took a little bit, is the closing speeds between ourselves and the cars in front. Coming down into the grid. This is where the car is absolutely unbelievably good. Got so much more downforce than a V8 supercar, sorry Garth, but across the top here, going into Skyline, with the ABS, just got so much confidence going over here, down into the dipper, and then you get down through the dipper, there it is, and hold it flat. Everything else takes care of itself. Traction, coming down to Forest Elbow, and again, the one thing that's probably the weakness of this car is its horsepower. Doesn't have a lot of it. Top speed down here, Conrod. We know in a V8 supercar it's about close to 300 kilometres an hour. This is only maxing out at about 270, 273. So it's an unbelievable feeling across the top. A little bit of a pity we don't have our grunt coming down into here. So really for us, it's a great car to drive. Down into the chase. Down that paddle shift, hook her in, look at that. Stability control takes over. So nice to drive. Coming down to the last corner of the track, of course Bathurst itself. As you know, Garth, it's our favourite, it's our grand final. And here's the lap of Bathurst in an Audi.
Being here at Bathurst for the 12-hour is like being part of a real-life game of Gran Turismo. There are so many different kinds of cars from a whole host of different marques all at the one race here at our version of Trial Mountain. Now, Xbox or not, if you put this race-bred Porsche against this street-friendly BMW, there is no doubt who would win. So the field is broken into 5 different classes to keep it fair. Here this weekend, classes D and E are the production cars that we saw run alone in last year's event, with the more powerful performance vehicles running in D opposed to the smaller cars in E. They compete in virtual showroom trim, however there are some modifications. Visually, the major changes appear to be inside the car, with all those road-going luxuries removed to save on weight, plus, of course, the added roll cage for safety. But there are a number of changes that have also been added for performance reasons, such as, well, stiffer suspension, brake ducts, as well as performance exhaust. Now in the production classes, we have slick tyres. Well, they're outlawed, so instead we run on this grooved R-Spec tyre. It's a bit of a hybrid between race and road rubber. The GTs are race-bred road cars, and their 3 classes include Class C, which is for virtually stock GT cars, B, the class for older spec races, and A, which is for FIA-approved machines that are at home racing on European tracks such as Le Mans. Despite being a full-blown race car, it's amazing just how many parts on these GTs are stock, with Audi claiming that 54% of the car that pulls up on the grid for the 12-hour can also be found on the car that pulls up at a set of lights. And in case you're wondering, GT translates to Gran Turismo in Italian, so that's where they get the name from.
No, that's not Chad's road car in the background. There's a new format for qualifying this year, an aggregate time made up of the fastest laps of the 3 drivers in each car would sort the grid. With $5 grand up for grabs, competitors went for it. The battle between the production cars was intense. Peter Conroy, Mark Frame and Anthony Robson, quickest, just. And the young guns, Jared McLeod, Ash Walsh and Chaz Mostert took pole in the production performance category. Matt Kingsley, Roger Largo and Darcy Russell, well, they scored pole in the GT Challenge class, while the Nissan of Tony Alford, Mal Rose and Peter Lemus grabbed top spot in GT production. The quickest lap went to the man who's grabbed pole for the last 2 years, Steve Owen, but the combined time of the Porsche he shares with James and Theo Konduras was only good enough for 3rd. Row 2 is all Porsche, with Craig Baird, Tony and Clark Quinn securing 4th. Audi locked out the front row. The Internationals, though, missing out on P1 by only 3/10. It was the green and gold entry of Craig Lowndes, Mark Eddy and Warren Luff that took the Armour All Pole Award. Warren Luff recording the fastest lap of the trio, a scorching 2:09.63. Stick around, we'll go racing right after the break.